Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Ah, yes, my friends, conservative, not bitter indeed. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I should have mentioned yesterday, I guess. This is Tuesday. I should have mentioned yesterday that this is a shortened week. This is a holiday week. Friday is Independence Day, so we will be out on Friday. And you know that as an Independence Day week, holiday week in general, specifically Independence Day, you know that there's some special days and weeks throughout the year if you've listened to this program. This is one of them. We do a recurring, we don't do themes on this program as I've shared before, but we do a general type of show, a certain special, if you would, episode around certain holidays. We have a Thanksgiving special, which of course is a hat tip carrying the mantle for the late great Rush Limbaugh, the real story, the true story of Thanksgiving. We do some things a little bit differently around the Christmas holiday. We also, of course, talk about Easter and Independence Day, the 4th of July, is a special time. And I want to talk just a little bit about that today. A couple of reasons for that. Well, 3 reasons. One, it's Independence Day week, number one. Number two, there's a poll out that I just want to share with you and talk about here that found that 36% of Democrats were very proud to be American, just 36%. And then the last is I kind of want to lead that into a conversation that I had with someone by happen chance yesterday here in our little community at a little diner. Just kind of a freaking encounter, but I just wanted to share a little bit about that with you while also not publicizing all details of who I was speaking with and all that. It's not so much about that as much as it is about what I learned from that conversation. Anyway, so that's where we're headed today, my friends. You know this, that one of the biggest challenges that we have as conservatives is finding ways to make sure our values align with everything that we go about doing. And that includes how we invest our hard-earned money. That's why I love to tell you what the team at 48 Financial is doing, because they specialize in what they call biblically responsible investing. This means that they screen out companies that do not align with your faith and your values so that you're not funding things that go completely against what you believe in. This is critically important. I know that there's different philosophies on this, but I also know that we really want to be consistent. If we really believe something, we would really want those beliefs to be a part of everything that we do, including how we invest our money. So they do at 4 Financial the heavy lifting for us. You don't have to worry about whether or not your investments align with your purpose and goals. They'll do that for you. And they'll help you find out right now what your investments, whatever you've got your investments in today, they can help you see by taking a little assessment if there is alignment between your values and your investments. I just did this recently. It's not very hard. In fact, you can select some pre-select options based upon your particular faith. If you're a Protestant or if you're Catholic, I think there was another selection or two, but you can also go through and manually say, where you rate each of these sorts of options to help identify what your values are. And so this tool helps you do that. So you can find that tool at 48financial.com/Todd, 48financial.com/Todd is where you can go. 48 Financial, my friends, because your money should work for your values. All right, so headline here, Gallup poll. Newsmax is where I'm seeing this, but this is a Gallup poll. Just 36% of Democrats are very proud to be American. Now, I just want to pause and ask you. Now, I know, listen, the vast majority of you listening to this program, you are conservative, you are maybe libertarian, you are limited government types. You believe in maximizing freedom and limiting the power and scope of our government. You believe in free speech. You believe in the freedom of religion, the freedom of press. You agree with our constitutional framework. You think that it's a beautiful thing. You love this nation. And you think that it's a special place. And so the majority of you are very proud or even extremely proud. I think that was an option in this survey as well, to be American. Now, you also would have said this, that most of you would have, not all of you, but I would say most of you would have still said when Biden was president that you were very proud or even extremely proud to be American. Now, some of you wouldn't have, because some people put a value on the person in office. And the thinking goes something like this. Well, how can I be proud of my country when we elected fill in the blank? If you're a Biden supporter, you would say that about Trump today. If you were a Trump supporter, you would have said that about Biden, or potentially said that about Biden back in 2020 or 2021 when he was coming into office. And so, but the question is, this is really a fascinating question to me. And it's fascinating to me psychologically what this means. Folks, I have been proud to be an American for as long as I can remember. I mean, listen, I know that I run the risk. I run the risk out there of being too much for some of you. This guy loves his country. In fact, there's an Apple review, an Apple podcast review, which, pause, by the way, if you listen to this show and you have, go to Apple Podcasts or wherever, Spotify, and take a moment just to rate this program, give us a review. Well, if you're going to give us a good one. If you're not, keep it to yourself, right? That's the way that we like to think about it. If you like what you hear, tell as many people as you know. If you don't, then tell me. You can write me. You can tell me what you don't like, Todd@ToddHuffShow.com. Don't be out there slandering the host of this program. But anyway, you can go and do those reviews. But I had a review some time ago from a guy named, I think it was Will or Willie. And he said, I'm paraphrasing here, but basically this might be more than many liberals can take, but it's a authentic, genuine perspective from a conservative, if you want to know how the other side thinks. He's a liberal or someone who's not in my general vicinity on the political spectrum. And he says from times, again, I'm paraphrasing, but I remember he said something like, from time to time, you might roll your eyes. And a lot of it's because, and I know it, I know that it's because some people think I'm blinded to America's failures. I'm not. That's just what do I choose to dwell upon? And how do I choose to view it? Because I think this is critically important. This leads to my conversation that I had with a gentleman who is left of center yesterday that I just want to share a little bit about, not to betray confidences or anything like that, but just to communicate, I think, some key differences and some things that, honestly, I think the vast majority of us agree upon on both sides of the aisle, outside of the radical extremists. So, all that being said, let me explain how I view it, because I do think this is the way most of you listening to my voice see it. Before I do that, this is actually part of doing it. I've told this analogy on this story. It's actually a story on this program before, but I played high school football, and I remember we our program was not in good shape, and we had a coach come in my senior year who basically we were able to turn it around. We actually we only finished 500 in the season, but we went to the sectional championship, getting beat by the eventual state champion. And so we had some talent, but we also had, the program had struggled for several years. It used to be really good in the day. It struggled. And this coach, our senior class, the players on the team were trying to kind of turn the ship around, if you will. And we played some really good teams. In fact, I believe we played 2 or 3 teams. I know we played at least 2 that went to the state championship. Just some of them were in different levels, or what do you call it, classes of football, I guess. And we played one of those teams who I believe went to the state my senior year, Tri-West. It was a school that was slightly smaller than us. We were one of the smallest 2A schools in the state. They were, I believe, a single A school at the time, and they were really good. And we were better. We should have at least been competitive, but we weren't. And we got throttled. I think the final score, I think it was like 40-0 or 40-8 or something like this. And at halftime, I remember our Coach Scott West, who in his own right was a magnificent football player, could throw the ball in high school. 90, sounds made up. I remember him in practice as he was the coach, an adult, long after his football days, and he would throw the football. I've never seen anything like this. He could mimic punts, like NFL level punts, with the way that he threw the football. He threw it 90-some yards, 92 yards, I think. He played at Purdue. His roommates actually was Scott Everett, if you know who that is. Anyway, so he was, a fiery guy. He's from Martinsville, where, they march to their own beat there. I can say that. Got some family from there. But he was infuriated at us at halftime. And he asked one of the players, a friend of mine, "Are you proud to be a Bulldog, Monrovia Bulldog?" And my friend said no. And Coach lost his mind. Because I think in my friend's mind, he was saying, "I'm embarrassed of what's going on out there." And in my coach's mind, it was in no way, shape, manner, or form should you let a circumstance dictate what you really think, how you feel about who you are. You following me on this? And my coach was right, by the way. You can be embarrassed of a moment, but are you embarrassed? It's like this to me. It's in a strict sense, by God's standards, when we tell a lie, we become liars, right? That's in a strictest of senses. But in a human sense, the way that we interact with one another, the way that we think about it, and again, this is just the way that we operate, we understand that there's a group of people that we would call liars and a group of people that we would consider more honest than not, understanding all the while that even the people in the honest group are certainly subjects of, temptations of not telling the truth exactly from time to time. And that's, again, from a human perspective, how we think about things. So where's the line? How many lies, so to speak, does one have to tell before you become identified as a liar? How many wins on the positive side must someone accumulate before we identify that person as a winner? And I think this is a key point as to how we answer the question as to whether or not we are proud to be American. Because I'm proud to be American because I love what this country has built. I love the framework upon which this country was established. I love what present tense, what the founders put together. And before we have some knucklehead lunatic out there, I'm not talking about slavery. I'm not talking about the 3/5 compromise. Those things are reprehensible and should never have happened. They did happen, and that is what it is. But I'm not talking about that. I am talking about this revolutionary realization that the founders had, that they put into the basic bedrock foundation and framework of this great nation. I'm talking about the ideas that say you're no longer a subject, you are a citizen. I'm talking about a government that finally said, we defeated and broke away from the former tyrants. We're not going to establish ourselves as the new class of tyrants. We're not going to now replace the former tyrants with our form of tyranny. In fact, we're going to do something revolutionary. We're going to say that you are a citizen, not a subject. We're going to, because listen, this is how it is. This is how it was made to be. We can try to force circumstances and situations and our will on people, but at the end of the day, we are free people created in the image of God, and our rights come from our Creator. They don't come from our government. And I want to pause there. I got more to say about this because it, I think, goes very far into this concept of how you answer the question. Are you proud to be American? Are you not proud to be American? That's where we're going to go in a moment, my friends. I know you care about this country. I know that. You tune in here. You follow the news. You try to communicate conservative principles. You try to support all that stuff, conservative businesses, causes. But you know that one of the often neglected areas of being an effective conservative is simply taking care of yourself. That's why I tell you about Soul Tea. It is all natural. It is clinically proven to lower cholesterol safely. It is a supplement. It is not a drug. It's not a prescription. You don't have to go to the doctor. I'm not telling you not to do those things. This isn't medical advice. What I'm saying is that this is a great first place to start when dealing with your heart's health. And as you age in particular, this becomes more of a concern. Although I would tell the younger people to be proactive about this and to think about it even in your younger, generally healthier years as well. So, we need strong, healthy Americans, my friends, to engage, to do our jobs, right? To take care of our families, our communities, our churches, our businesses, but also to fight for this country. Do not let high cholesterol slow you down. Soultea.com is the website. Promo code Todd will get you 50% off and free shipping. Again, that's Soultea.com, promo code Todd. All right, getting back to this. Proud to be an American sort of mentality. I told you the story about my football coach, and when we paused and left off, I was explaining what it is that makes me proud. Now, let me pause again, because pride is something, when we talk about pride is actually, the great sin. Pride in its true, I guess, complete definition. We use the word pride to talk about being proud to be American, but it's not the same exact thing as what pride is, say, in the biblical sense, or how the word is typically used. Pride in the biblical sense ultimately means that I have decided that I don't need God, that I've got it figured out on my own, that I'm greater than I really am, that I'm greater than other people. I start looking around and say, my, oh my, how great I am. I'm like the man at the temple who's praying. Jesus told this parable. This religious leader goes to the temple and prays and says, Lord, thank you that I'm not like all these other losers here at the temple praying to you. And then next to him is a prayer of a beautiful, humble servant of Almighty God who says, Lord, forgive me, I am a sinner. Pride is the antithetical, the opposite mindset of that humble, self-aware person who knows that he is in need of a Savior, that he has fallen, that he is not perfect. We're not talking about pride like that. We're talking about this concept that says it is an honor to be associated, to be a part of this wonderful American experiment. I am honored. I consider myself blessed. It's not in the sense that I have attained it. It's not in the sense that we're better than anybody else, because candidly, friends, we're not. It's that the system is better. The system that we have accepted, the system that we have learned to understand, that has been revealed to us, that we've figured out, whatever you want to say, that is a wonderful thing. And to be honored to be a part of a country like that is what I mean when I say proud. Now, let me tell you something. I'm not proud of all of the people who have been elected to represent this country. We've got some communist knucklehead running for office in New York City. And make no mistake, this Zoran Mamdani is an absolute extreme leftist communist. This guy, just listen, he basically wants to have the government take over all sorts of things. He wants to target people by race. Now, he'll say he doesn't, but it's in his plan. He wants wealthier, whiter neighborhoods to pay more in taxes in New York City. How that's not racist, my friends, is beyond me. Of course it is, but yet the left will say that it's not. But we have legitimate people in this country that are embarrassing. Now, they don't embarrass me because I don't support them. I didn't support President Joseph Robinette bribery. I didn't support Bill Clinton. By the way, that was my first time I could vote. The presidential options in 1996 were Bob Dole and Bill Clinton. So when I tell you that we had some uninspiring choices to choose from as Republicans in American history, believe me, I can attest to many of them because they were on my ballot because I voted since 1996. Bob Dole, John McCain, Mitt Romney. Anyway, so there are certainly candidates, elected officials, presidents, whatever, senators, congressmen, who are embarrassing to themselves, maybe even embarrassing to us when we think, my goodness, the world is watching as this Joseph Robinette bribery was falling on stages and everything else. But I don't know that I was always consistently, you go back and listen to this program during the Biden years. If you go back to the July 4th episode, I said the same thing that I'm saying now. And I got to stop saying those words right now because I'm up against the clock. Quick time out, my friends. Back here in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. I am proud indeed to be an American. And it is not because of who is in the White House. I can be happy with the things that are happening by the president. I can be unhappy, whatever, but it's not tied to whether or not I am proud fundamentally to be an American, honored and grateful. That is that is my experience. And I got to be honest, for those who can't say that they're extremely proud or very proud, I have a hard time understanding. I do. I really do. And I understand America is not perfect. But my friends, America is good. Have you ever paused to think? I know you have. But have you ever paused to think? Have those who are not proud of this country paused to think what this world would look like without the United States of America? What would have happened during the Cold War? Let's say the United States lost the Cold War, and let's say the United States crumbled like the Soviet Union crumbled in the wake of the Cold War. What do you think the world would look like today? The same ideas, the same types of ideas that were being pushed by the evil empire of the Soviet Union are being pressed today, are being spoken about favorably today, campaigned on today by this lunatic in New York City, Zoran Mamdani. Those ideas are what we fought against, or at least are closely related to what we fought against regarding the communists of the Soviet Empire. Friends, we are blessed indeed. Listen, I know materialism is not the measure, the most important measure, but our quality of life, our lifestyle is good. I'm talking to you through a microphone that is sending out a signal to radio stations, and you're able to hear that driving in your car on the way to work or about your day, or you're listening to us on your iPhone or Android device on Apple Podcasts or Spotify as you go for a walk, or you garden, or you exercise, or you just sit and unwind from your day, as you prepare to get ready for work, whatever the circumstances and details. That is a pretty magnificent thing. The history of the world has been full of oppressive tyrants, of poverty, of war, of disease. We live in a fallen world. We are blessed from a physical standpoint, from a materialistic standpoint. And that's not all that matters, and it's not the most important thing that matters, but there's nothing wrong. In fact, it's a good thing to want to provide a comfortable, relatively comfortable, not to have spoiled brat children, a bunch of Kardashians running around or whatever. I'm saying it is a good thing to provide good things for people, right? To be able to have these blessings. And it is a good thing. We are incredibly blessed. And I know that each of us may be in a season. Some of you might be in a season of life right now where there are difficulties, where you've lost a loved one, where you've got a negative prognosis, or you're dealing with emotional trauma, legitimate trauma, not the way that these leftists think that everything is traumatic because Trump won the election. I mean, genuine trauma, broken relationships, financial difficulties, just very difficult things. You might be in that situation right now. So I don't want you to hear me say that you have it better than everyone else and see it through that lens. That's not what I mean. Those types of struggles that I just mentioned and the many others, those are unfortunately what all of us have to deal with, regardless of the type of society we live in, the type of government. These are the types of things that happen in a broken and fallen world. And I don't say that to be callous or anything like that. I'm not saying suck it up or anything along those lines. What I'm saying is I'm just not talking about those things when I'm talking about the blessings, how much better we have it in this country. We have it immensely better. We are freer. We are more prosperous. We have more opportunities. That's what I'm proud of. That's what I'm honored to be a part of. That's what I'm grateful to be a part of. And so when someone asks me if I'm proud to be an American, whether Biden's in office, Trump's in office, Clinton's in office, George Washington's in office, Millard Fillmore's in office, James K. Polk's in office, Abraham Lincoln. I'm not going to list all the presidents, but you get the idea. Harry S. Truman, Dwight D. Eisenhower, whoever, Ronald Reagan. My answer is yes. I am proud to be an American. But according to this Gallup poll, only about 1 in 3 Democrats can say it. And why? Why? Why can't you be proud? Because they're embarrassed of our president, because they think that this country is becoming fascist. I don't take this seriously. You either don't know what fascism is, or you want to you've been led astray by the lunatics who keep barking these same things repeatedly, time and time again, or you're deliberately trying to throw a temper tantrum. There's some of that. I didn't do this. I mean, you can have legitimate beefs with Trump. In fact, that's one of the things I want to get to in the time I have remaining. Conversation I had yesterday with someone who doesn't like Trump. I would say hates Trump. I don't think that that's fair. You can have those things. Fine, express those things. But to let that shape, like it did my friend, which I told you in the story earlier of my football coach, you can't let that shake the honor of being American, the blessing of being a part of this. Because even though those policies matter, I'm, by the way, completely thrilled with the policies that we have in this country, the direction that things are going. I'm thrilled to have a president that puts America's interests first for the first time in a long time in this great nation. I'm proud of a president that's enforcing the law instead of figuring out ways to ignore the law. I'm proud of that. But even if we had Biden there and he was allegedly funneling money to Hunter Biden or whatever else he was allegedly doing, using the auto pen against his knowledge, even, did you see that someone is now making a pretty, I would say, a case that at least causes pause and reflection to say that even the signature used by the auto pen wasn't wasn't Joe Biden's. They believe it was Dr. Jill Biden's forgery of Joe Biden. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying none of that made me say I was not proud to be an American. I might be disappointed in my fellow countrymen. I might be disappointed in our political leadership, but how can it shake? How can it shake this gift that we have? My gratitude and the great honor of being able to be a part of this, the greatest country on the face of the planet. Again, not because of our DNA, but because of these ideas. It doesn't register for me. And I see people who are saying the 4th of July is canceled. We can't be celebrated. I don't take you seriously. You look like petulant children. You can not like Trump. You can be against his ICE raids or his securing of the border. Why? I don't know, but have at it. Do what you got to do. Make your case. Have your protests. Don't burn and loot things. That should go without saying. But have your opposition to it. In fact, I told this gentleman I was speaking with yesterday, I appreciate the voice. I do. Some of you don't agree with me on this, but I appreciate the voices who express their disagreement. Now, genuine disagreement, not acting, again, like petulant children and having these episodes where it looks like they need to be checked into some sort of professional facility to get help. These meltdowns, this virtue signaling, this condescension. I don't listen to that. I don't care. You can behave like that and I will pay you no attention. But if you want to have a genuine conversation with me, if you want to really express your concerns, if you want to voice opposition, I think that that's a good thing and it's necessary. But quit being babies, quit the virtue signaling, and quit telling me you're not proud, very proud to be American because Donald Trump is president. That's pathetic. That is, you want to talk about a loser mentality. That's it. That is it. Friends, speaking of the red, white, and blue, let me remind you that we here at the show have launched a new division of the business called Red, White, and Brand, where we help customers put their logos on almost anything. And that includes a lot, my friends. That includes pop-up banners and banners. That includes trade show displays. That includes apparel, hats, t-shirts, polos, beanies, anything you can imagine, my friends. Almost. There might be a thing or two that we can't get your logo on, but I think you would be surprised. Whether it's awards and recognition, whether it's gifts, whether it's giveaways, promotional products, redwhiteandbrand.com. That's the website. Promo code Todd will save you 10%, and online orders get free shipping. redwhiteandbrand.com, promo code Todd. Quick time out here, my friends. Back in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. Final segment of the program today. I want to remind you, Oz over here throwing stuff around in the background for some reason. I'm kidding. She dropped something. But I want to remind you about our friends at MyPillow, MyPillow.com. First of all, they want to thank you for supporting. A lot of you have bought their products listening to this program, whether it be pillow sheets. They want to say thank you for that. That's something that's often overlooked by a lot of folks, but they do want to thank you for that. They also want to let you know that they have a special on Percale bed sheets that you can get a set of for as low as $24.98, my friends. These are breathable. They have a cool, crisp feel. They have deep pockets, so they're able to fit over any mattress, and they're just a high quality, comfortable sheet. And also, for a limited time, when you place an order with MyPillow over $100, they will give you $100 in free digital gifts. So go to mypillow.com, use my name Todd as your discount code when checking out. You're going to get this special and discounts on other products as well. mypillow.com, promo code Todd. All right, I want to share with you a little bit here about a conversation I had yesterday, just in the final segment of the program. I went yesterday. There's a little diner in our community. There's a couple of them. I went to one of them just because, well, I'm kind of changing the workflow of my day. And so I went there and I grabbed some lunch, and it was a relatively quiet environment. And I was planning on doing a little bit of work there before going to where I needed to go next. And I looked, and the place that I went to sit down was directly next to someone that I've known in our community probably, I'm 47. I mean, it's probably been close to 40 years, 30 some anyway. And I ran into him, and he's a figure here in the community. He's been in this community for a long time. I mean, he's in his early 50s, I think. And so I know, just from knowing him and seeing some of the things, he's a very vocal opponent of President Trump. He is a very, he's not conservative per se. As I asked him yesterday, where would you put yourself on the spectrum? He said he's left of center, which he is. He's not a leftist. Listen, leftists are people that have there are liberals. I actually welcome the day when our fights were just against liberals. We're fighting some extremeless, godless, radical leftists who want to redefine everything in our lives, including what makes, whether someone can change their gender, hardcore communists who, I'm looking here, I've got a video playing in the background of Zoran Mamdani, even right now. Well, we've got this sort of ideology, these sorts of opinions, the redefining of everything. They can't define a woman. I mean, it's just pure confusion, bedlam, and pandemonium. So he's not in that category. He's left of center. And so we had a conversation. And, he said, I believe him. He said, I genuinely just don't understand how people are Trump supporters. And he went to some examples, some of the standard examples of mocking a disabled person, which, of course, again, context is key. I'm not saying Trump is perfect, and that's one of the things I want everybody to know. I'm not saying that. None of us are perfect. That's not an insult to Trump. That's just a fact. But most of the things, if not all of the examples, losers and suckers comment, you find out that these are just unsubstantiated things, or in some cases, if you listen to a full clip, like the very good people on both sides argument about Charlottesville, it's not there. And so I think that some of it is, what do you listen to? Where do you get your information? Certainly is a part of that. But I do want to speak really quickly here. I think people who are in that position do not fully grasp. Like, for me, I've watched politics. I followed this for a little over 30 years of my life now. And of course, my understanding of it is much different today than it was 30 years ago. But I've watched as a series of people who have been running this country, making decisions, have let this country go further and further to the left, or to grow the size and scope of government, to trample upon liberty, to spend more and more money, and no one does anything about it. No one seemed to truly be there for the American people. And along comes this guy who says the sorts of things that I agree with. He says them differently. He doesn't fit the standard what I want to say, the standard profile of what's presidential. But at the same time, if the building's on fire, if the ship is sinking, do you want someone who's speaking in his inside library voice? I can excuse and overlook a lot of it just on that alone. For someone who sees the seriousness of this and is tired of playing the games and the shenanigans. So I don't have as much time as I wanted to. I should have done better at planning this out, what I wanted to say. But I will say this, at the closing of our conversation, which it actually pushed me back from I was late on a call because I was engrossed in this conversation. I made the call, but I was a little late. But he stood up and he said, I really appreciate this conversation. And you know what? I did too. It wasn't contentious. We didn't leave agreeing, but I think there were some things that we did agree on, especially when talking about some local stuff. But anyway, I got to go, my friends. Have hope for your country. Be proud. STG.